All right, so congratulations on getting yourself into the lottery for the California Dream for All program. I'm kicking off a series of videos, at least 2 a week, to talk to you about the home buying process, everything you need to be thinking about right now in order to be ready to take advantage of the Dream for All voucher once you get selected when the lottery results are announced. The biggest question I'm being asked is, John, when are we going to find out when the lottery results are going to be announced? We don't know. We know that back in 2024, it took about 60 days for them to complete the process. Now, what is the process? The process right now is the state, along with their auditors and what do you call them? Private investigators. They've hired a private investigation service, and they are in the process of validating, are you really a first-generation homebuyer? Like, there is no certificate of first-time or first-generation homebuyerness. Just like there's no certificate of being unmarried. Like, if you've never been married, you can't give me a piece of paper to prove that. If you're married, you can give me a piece of paper to prove that. If you're divorced, you can give me a piece of paper to prove that. But if you've never been married, there's no piece of paper to prove it. Just like there's no piece of paper to prove that your parents currently do not own a home. There's no piece of paper to prove that you haven't had your name on anything, anytime mortgage or home related, anytime in the last 7 years. So that's what they're digging into right now. Now, the first thing you need to be aware of is pay attention to the email address that you used when you registered with the state, because they're sending out emails right now to people if they come across questions and need your help digging into it. So pay attention to that email. They give you a short amount of time to get back to them. So if you haven't been watching that email, watch that email every single day to see if they send you any requests for information. As soon as they release vouchers, I will let you know. I'm going to put a lot of publicity out on my YouTube and Facebook and email and text messaging out to everybody to let you know, hey, check your email to see if you are a winner. There's going to be 3 outcomes. You are either going to be selected and you have a voucher, you're going to be put on the waiting list, or you're going to be not selected. We just don't know when those answers are going to be announced. So be ready. If you are selected, your voucher will be available immediately for download in the portal. That voucher has an expiration date 90 days after it was issued. At that time, as soon as the vouchers are released, I'm going to start hosting Zoom calls for all 3 groups. So I'm going to host a call for people who got a voucher and talk about what you need to be thinking about, what steps you have to take. I'm going to host separate calls for people on the waiting list and talking about what you need to be thinking about and what steps you should be taking. And I'm going to host calls for people who are not selected to talk about what you should be doing. If you're not selected, you have 2 options. Option number 1, you move forward with a different program that is not Dream for All, but typically that means a higher monthly payment for the same purchase price, or a lower purchase price in order to keep the same monthly payment. Or you decide, hey, John, I don't want to wait. I don't want to move forward now. I'm happy to wait, and I want to wait until the next lottery comes out, and we'll be creating a list for the people who want to wait until the next lottery is announced. We're going to find out in July of this year if there's money for next year. So we don't know if there's going to be a lottery in 2027, but we're going to find out in July of 2026 when the budget is released. And if there's money set aside for the Dream for All program in the budget that's released in July, then we know that there's going to be a lottery next year. So that's what I can tell you about what we're doing right now. What you need to be thinking about right now is you need to think about a few things. Number 1, you need to make sure that you're lined up for the purchase price that you think you're going to need to spend. Now, if you have not looked at price ranges, you should start looking right now. It's a little early to engage a real estate agent, so I wouldn't suggest get a realtor out driving around with you, because the truth is there's the likelihood of you getting, statistical likelihood of you getting a voucher is 1 in 10 based on the 2024 numbers. So 90% of you aren't going to get a voucher right away. That's a lot of time and effort realtors are spending that if you think about it, they don't get paid for driving you around. They get paid for actually helping you buy a home. So if you want to engage a realtor, just understand, respect their time, respect the energy and effort that they put in, and they don't get paid unless they complete a transaction. And so try not to take too much of their time until you know if you've won, unless you have a plan that says I'm buying no matter what. And if you're buying no matter what, then of course they're not wasting their time and you're not expecting them to donate their time. But how do you figure out if you're buying no matter what? Well, that comes down to running the numbers. I'm going to show you in a couple minutes my Dream for All calculator that'll help you run the numbers, but I strongly encourage you to set up an appointment with me. There should be a link down below, or there should be a QR code scanning floating above my head, or all of the above that should allow you to set up a call with me. Whether I pre-approved you for your Dream for All lottery ticket or I didn't, you can still talk to me. Now, I want to be clear, I'm interviewing for the job of being your lender. You do not have to stick with the lender that gave you the pre-approval letter that got you into the lottery. If your lender's great, perfect, stick with them, call them and get strategy from them. But if you don't feel like they've got the knowledge or the ability to give you that strategy, call me. I'll sit down with you. Even if you don't end up using me, I'll still sit down and have a conversation with you. My goal, obviously, is to wow you and to show you why you should use me. I had a lot of people in the 2024 lottery that ended up switching and using me. 9 of my clients got lottery tickets from the start in 2024. Yet I helped 57 people out of the 2024 lottery, which means 48 more people switched to me from other lenders because of my knowledge, my ability to help navigate these waters to successfully get you across the finish line. More on that later. So the first thing is get an idea of price range of what you want to spend and get a feel for monthly payment. Where's your budget? Regardless of what I or your other lender said is the maximum you can qualify for, by the way, you need to know that answer. But regardless of that answer, you need to know, what am I willing to spend? And if you don't know what you're able to qualify for, you need to call back your lender, or you need to run the numbers through my calculator. So I'm going to show you in a minute my free calculator. You can put in your income, you can put in your debts and your credit score. It will tell you how much you can spend. It's a mathematical equation on how much money that you can spend each month. We simply take your total gross income monthly, and then we multiply that by 50% if your credit scores are all over 700, or by 45% if you're under 700. And then that's the most you can spend in total every single month. Then we take your debt, your credit cards, your car payments, your student loan payments, and we subtract it from that number. So if you make $10,000 a month, $120,000 a year, and you have a credit score of over 700, that means you can spend $5,000 a month towards all of your debt. Now you have to subtract your car payment at $500 a month and your credit card payments at $250 a month, which means you have $4,250 a month left to put towards a house payment. That's the math. That's what my calculator does for you. Now, that doesn't mean you're willing to spend $4,250. That might mean, hey, John, I'm not willing to spend more than $3,500. Again, that's where you have to understand there's a number the bank says is the most you can spend. The state of California, through the Cal HFA Dream for All program, determines that math. And then there's a number you're willing to spend. Now, what if your number is higher than the number we're willing to let you spend? Then we've got to figure out a creative way to stretch your income. I have lots of different things that we can look at that potentially could work. Sometimes there's no creative ways. Sometimes there are, but I'm an expert in trying to help you find ways to stretch your income. And I'll talk more about that over the coming weeks as I'm talking about strategy on things you need to know as you're preparing for the Dream for All lottery. So now you've got to triple check and make sure that you're on track from a credit perspective. Credit is one of the biggest things that I talk to people about in 2024 that got into the lottery. They got a voucher and they couldn't use their voucher because their credit score wasn't where it needed to be. Now, some of them snuck into the lottery with a credit score that was too low. Some of them had a credit score that was just fine, but the credit dropped. So make sure you're paying attention to your credit score. Make sure you're paying all of your bills on time. Recognize the credit report that was pulled to get you into the lottery is not the credit report we're going to use to keep you in the lottery, to use when you get your voucher to buy the home. Most lenders used a soft credit report, but even if they used a hard credit report, those are only good for 4 months from the time it was pulled. And if you had your credit report pulled 2 months or a month and a half ago, now you're not going to have enough time on that credit report to use it to fund your purchase. So make sure your credit stays in line. You can, the number one place that I know to determine your mortgage credit report is myfico.com. Myfico.com. Why? Because mortgage credit scores are different than other credit scores. It has to do with the computer calculation, the algorithm that's used to interpret your credit information to come up with the statistical number that is your credit score. Well, every couple of years, the FICO system and other systems have updated that math, have updated their thinking on what goes into a credit score. And so there's different models that are used. It's no different than AI right now. And you got an old model of AI, and then you got a new model, and you got a new model that thinks different. Well, guess what? The mortgage industry adopted the credit scoring model that we use about 20 years ago. And we haven't updated it ever since. We're in the process of updating it, but I've lost track because they keep postponing the update, but they're in the process of updating it. Right now, we're using a credit model that was created back in the mid-2000s. And so what does that mean? It means when you go onto your credit card company, you go to Credit Karma, that number is a different number. It isn't the same number mortgage companies are using. So the only way I know for you to get the right number is to go to myfico.com. You have to pay for it. Okay, but you go to myfico.com. Now you can see your mortgage credit score. That's the one that we care about. That's the one that has to be above 680 for everybody on the loan. And we throw away the worst score. We throw away the best one, and we use the middle one for each person. And then each person's middle score has to meet the minimum credit score. Okay, so the minimum credit score is 680 unless you are considered low income. If you're low income, it's 660. What's low income? It's an income threshold per county. I have that list on my calculator. And so you can go to the FAQs and you can pull up that list. I'll show you the link to my calculator here in just a minute. So credits is number one. Number two is income. Make sure you're paying attention to your job. Okay. Now, there is no one size fits all answer here, but if you're right up against the income limit and you're up against a pay raise, you might want to call me and say, hey, John, I'm worried because with this pay raise, it might bump my income, because we don't simply look at what you made last year. If you are a salaried employee, we're using the income that you're making right now. Now, your bonuses, your overtime, your commission portion, we average over the last couple of years. But when it comes to your actual base pay, the moment you get that pay raise, we have to count that number. And so if the income limit for your county was 160,000 and you made 155, and your employer gave you a 10% or 5% pay raise, okay, that still puts you over the $160,000. No matter that your tax returns were lower, no matter that your Dream for All pre-approval letter said a lower amount, we're revalidating everything again. So keep your eye on your income. Same holds true for job changes, job losses, switching from being a W-2 employee to self-employed to W-2. Lots of different scenarios here. I'm an expert in all of them. I don't know that I can cover all of them here. Some of the videos I'll do going forward is going to get into the weeds on some of these things. But right now, just be aware of changes in income and how they may impact you, and call your lender. If your lender is not knowledgeable about this, you have the wrong lender, call me. I'm going to take great care of you. Okay, so credit and income are the two things that you need to be paying attention to right now. And then the third thing is pay attention to your email to watch for any requests from CalHFA asking you to provide them information while we're in this lottery waiting period. All right, now I'm going to share with you my Dream for All app and kind of walk you through how this is going to help you. So first of all, you go right here and you click on Get Started for Free, and you fill out an account, you fill in your information. I actually already have an account, so I'm just going to sign in on the account here. And where it's going to take you is it's going to take you through a setup wizard that's going to ask you information about your income and ask you information about your debts, but ultimately it's going to create all of this data. So it's going to give you the information about you and your cosigner. If you have one, you're going to put in your total income. You're going to put in the amount of your debts and your credit score. You can add debts in here to show how much you have in total debt. And so once you've done all of this, now the calculator lets you run numbers. The first and most important thing is right here. And it says this is the most you can spend each month. Now, if you update your income and you say, well, technically, John's income was a projection. He really only makes $60,000 a year. Okay, cool. Then we change the income. And now I go back to the calculator and it says the most I can spend is $5,750. But then I can say, gosh, I really need to buy a house, because if I go back, by the way, right here, and I go to max qualify, it's going to say the most I can qualify for is $875,000 if I'm willing to bring in $43,000 to close, or $840 if I'm willing to bring in $4,000 to close. But I really want a higher priced home. I really want to buy $1 million home. So I can put that in as $1 million. You're just going to say, great, but your payment's going to be about $6,700 to $7,000. And I'm trying to figure out, how do I get to that number? Well, then I've got to go back here and say, well, what if I pay off some of my debts? And so if I say, hey, I'm going to pay off, well, I only have, one debt right here for $100 a month. And so if I pay that off, that stretches me a little bit, but it doesn't stretch me that far. So I'm at $5,800. So maybe I need to worry about getting a pay raise and getting back to, let's get my wife making $130,000 a year. And now I can go to a higher purchase price. Now I can qualify for $7,000 a month in a monthly payment, which means I could technically buy a $1.1 million home if I want to put $67,000 out of pocket. If I want the lowest cash to close, it's $1,087,000 with about $16,000 out of pocket. And then I can say, no, I really don't want to spend more than $6,500 a month. Cool. Then $6,500 a month equals these purchase prices based upon whether I want to come up with the lowest amount of cash, just pay the closing costs, or pay the maximum out of pocket. So I've provided you with a way to very easily see what all of your options are in one place. If you've already gotten pre-approved by me, then this link was included in the link with your golden ticket, your pre-approval letter. Y'all were so focused on getting put into the lottery, you didn't read it, but right there it said, click here, and you can log in, and we have created this account for you already. You've got everything you need right here to run your own numbers. If the numbers don't line up, call me. Let's schedule a time to talk so that we can get all of your questions answered right now. So I had a conversation with somebody today where we talked about one of the spouse, the person I was talking to, their spouse is self-employed. They aren't showing very much profit on their taxes, but the spouse is going to get a W-2 job. So we talked about how much that job needs to earn and how much debt they need to pay off in order to get them to their target purchase price. That's what you need to be thinking about right now is, am I ready? Do I need to add a cosigner? You can add cosigners as long as they're going to live in the home with you and as long as they are a first-time home buyer. They don't have to be first generation, but they have to be first time, meaning that they have not lived in a home owned by themselves or their spouse any time in the last 3 years. So cosigners are okay, but they have to be living in the home with you, and they cannot have lived in a home owned by themselves or their spouse any time in the last 3 years. So I've covered a whole lot here. I'm going to cover a whole lot more in depth in the next few weeks as we're waiting for the lottery results. My job right now is to get you prepared for the next step. We don't know which category you're going to fall into, but what I do know is no matter what category you're going to fall into, I want to be here to take care of you. Many of you are already my client. Those of you who are not, by the way, those of you who are, I want to make sure that you are reaffirmed that you have made the right decision. For those of you who are not, I am interviewing for the job of being your lender. You do not have to stick with the lender that pre-approved you. If they're doing a great job, stick with them, please. But if they're not doing a good job, if they aren't knowledgeable in providing you the resources that you need, then think about switching to the person who is providing you that information, and that is me. So I really appreciate you listening. Please continue to listen in on the rest of the series as we get you ready for the Dream for All lottery results, and know that I will be here to guide you every single step of the way. Thanks so much for listening. Have an absolutely wonderful day. Bye-bye.